I'm going back there soon.
Are you really?
Yes.
What for?
Fun.
Fun?
Yeah. Although it seems strange to say I'm going to Scotland for fun, but I am. Do you go there a lot? You still live there. Do you still live there?
No, I live in London now.
Right.
But I was there recently, and it was really good.
Was it fun?
Nice. It was. I went to Loch Ness.
Did you see the...
Yes, again, yes.
If thousands of people claim to have seen the same thing, could they all be wrong? For over 90 years, the same creature has been described in Loch Ness. Is that just a coincidence? In 2025, people still claim to have seen the creature, but how do they describe it today? In this video, I compiled the most notable Nessie sightings and photographs from the past to the present. I continue to investigate Nessie objectively. If this video receives enough likes, the next one in this series will be even more intriguing. By liking the video and subscribing to the channel, you can help this series continue. After watching, don't forget to comment which photo or encounter seemed the most realistic to you. And if you've ever had a sighting of the Loch Ness Monster, I'd love for you to share it in the comments as well. Now sit back and witness the events experienced by people who have encountered Nessie throughout modern history. D. Mackenzie. D. Mackenzie from the village of Balnain reported seeing an object on Loch Ness that resembled a log or an overturned boat, which churned the water in a wriggling motion. He said the object moved slowly at first, then sped up and disappeared. This account didn't reach the media at the time. Mackenzie only shared his story later in 1934, after the Nessie phenomenon exploded, in a letter to Rupert T. Gould. This is considered one of the first modern-day sightings. Alexander MacDonald. Alexander MacDonald, a stonemason from the village of Abriachan, saw a large, bulky-legged animal in the water about 50 meters from the Loch Ness shore. MacDonald said the creature emerged toward the surface and stayed visible for a while. He reported the sighting to Loch Ness water bailiff Alex Campbell and described it as resembling a giant salamander. Although the 1888 incident did not gain much attention at the time, it was later included in official Nessie records by researchers like Campbell and Gould. The fisherman's encounter. 3 fishermen, while out on the lake in their boat, reported that the water suddenly churned and a creature about 6 meters long approached their vessel, splashing water high into the air. As the creature passed by, the wave it created violently rocked the boat. The fishermen were convinced it was a living creature stirring the water. Following the incident, other people wrote letters to the newspaper, claiming they had also seen strange creatures in Loch Ness before. This 1930 sighting became one of the first modern reports just before the monster's fame erupted in 1933. Aldi Mackay. The event that truly sparked the modern legend occurred in spring 1933. Aldi Mackay, traveling with her husband John Mackay along the Inverness Fort Augustus Road, A82, reported seeing a massive creature churning the water like a boiling cauldron on Loch Ness. The Mackays said they witnessed a huge, whale-like animal rolling and thrashing in the water, creating foam and waves for about a minute. The story was published in the Inverness Courier on May 2nd, 1933, under the headline, "Strange Spectacle on Loch Ness." The article, written by water bailiff Alex Campbell, was the first to use the term Loch Ness Monster. The couple emphasized that the creature's massive size and the waves it created were far beyond anything seen in normal aquatic life. This article drew major attention and helped turn the Loch Ness Monster into a globally recognized modern myth. George Spicer. In 1933, George Spicer, a prominent businessman, and his university-educated wife reportedly witnessed the creature while driving along the northern shore of the loch. They described their encounter as follows. For a full minute, it rolled and dove, its body resembling that of a whale, and the water churned like a boiling cauldron. This story marked the beginning of the use of the term monster to describe this mysterious entity. The second sighting occurred 2 months later, in July 1933. A wealthy individual and their spouse, driving along the same route, described the creature as having a long, undulating neck, thicker than an elephant's trunk. They excitedly added, "It was the closest encounter with a dragon or prehistoric animal I've ever experienced in my life." The Hugh Gray photograph. A local resident named Hugh Gray claimed to have captured the first photo of Nessie while walking near Foyers on the shores of Loch Ness. The photo, although slightly blurry, appeared to show a long-bodied figure on the water's surface. Published in late 1933, this image drew attention as the first photographic evidence of the monster. However, some observers noticed what appeared to be the head of a dog in the image. Gray had indeed been accompanied that day by his Labrador retriever, which had jumped into the water. Later, some experts suggested the shape could also resemble an otter or a swan. The original negative of Gray's photo was lost. In the 1960s, researcher Maurice Burton obtained 2 glass slide copies and projected them for analysis. He reported that the image most likely depicted an otter rolling on the surface of the water. Thus, despite Hugh Gray's good intention, the first Nessie photo was likely an ordinary animal, not the Loch Ness Monster. Arthur Grant, a 21-year-old veterinary student, claimed he came face to face with a strange creature around 1 a.m. on a winter night while riding his motorcycle near Drumnadrochit along a road by the loch. In the moonlight, he said he saw an animal with a small head and long neck, which quickly turned and fled back toward the water upon noticing him. Grant said he stopped his motorcycle and tried to follow it, but only saw ripples on the surface as it disappeared into the loch. He described the creature as something between a seal and a plesiosaur, and later drew a sketch from memory the next day. Zoologist Maurice Burton, who examined the drawing, concluded that the creature's description and behavior were consistent with that of an otter. Grant's encounter was covered by newspapers at the time and helped promote the idea that the monster could be seen on land. However, experts now generally consider it to have been a case of mistaken identity in the dark. The surgeon's photo. The most famous image in the Loch Ness legend was taken on this date. British Army surgeon Colonel Robert Kenneth Wilson claimed he saw a creature with its neck and head above the water while driving near the loch one morning. He quickly took 4 photos with his camera. The next day, April 20th, 1934, Wilson spoke to the press about seeing a creature but did not mention the photos. On April 21st, the Daily Mail published the first of his pictures on its front page, and the blurry, black and white image became an international sensation as supposed proof of the Loch Ness Monster. The photo showed a slender, long neck and small head emerging from the loch. Dubbed the surgeon's photo, it remained for decades one of the strongest pieces of evidence for Nessie's existence. Skeptics, however, argued it might have shown a log, a water bird, or some other object. In 1994, it was strongly revealed to be a hoax. Investigations showed that the photo was actually staged by big game hunter Marmaduke Wetherell as an act of revenge. Wetherell had been hired by the Daily Mail to investigate Nessie, but was publicly discredited after some of his evidence was deemed fake. In retaliation, he collaborated with his son Ian and his stepson Christian Sperling to fabricate the photo. Sperling built a plesiosaur-like head and neck model and attached it to a toy submarine. The photo was deliberately taken from a distance and made blurry to enhance the illusion. To make the image seem credible, they used the name of Dr. Wilson, who wanted to stay out of the spotlight and quietly distanced himself from the affair. In 1991, Sperling confessed to the hoax, finally exposing that even the most iconic image of the Loch Ness Monster was in fact fake. G.E. Taylor's film. South African tourist G.E. Taylor shot a 3-minute recording of Loch Ness using a 16mm color camera during a visit to the lake. According to Taylor, the film captured a moving object on the surface of the water. The footage was not made public at the time. It was later reviewed by science writer Maurice Burton, and only a single frame was published in 1961. Burton concluded that the object in the film was likely not a living creature, but a floating object, possibly a log or a branch. While Taylor's film didn't make much impact at the time, it was later catalogued as part of the broader search for Nessie. Lachlan Stewart photograph. In 1951, Lachlan Stewart, a woodsman with the Forestry Commission, woke early to milk his cow on his croft. Peering out the window, he spotted a large creature moving in Loch Ness. He called to his friend Mr. Hay, who was staying with him. They hurried to the shore and watched in awe as the creature, displaying 3 distinct triangular humps with water visible between each, swiftly passed within 50 yards. Stewart, who had grabbed a small box camera, snapped a photo of the mysterious sight. The photo stirred excitement and was published in numerous books over the years as evidence of the Loch Ness Monster. However, 2 decades later, local author Richard Frere revealed that he had witnessed Stewart staging the hoax by covering 3 hay bales with tarpaulin in the shallow water before taking the photo. Subsequent researchers also reached the same conclusion, labeling Stewart's photo as a deliberate hoax. The humps in the photo had angular shapes that resembled artificial objects rather than a supernatural creature. This incident revealed that Stewart was among the first to succumb to the temptation of fabricating evidence in the Nessie mystery. Peter McNab photograph. Bank manager Peter McNab captured a photo while photographing Loch Ness near Urquhart Castle. The image showed 2 long dark humps on the surface of the water. McNab's photograph was published in Constance White's book on Loch Ness in 1957 and later featured in the Weekly Scotsman in 1958. The photo showed 2 dark protrusions at a distance, seemingly close together in front of the castle. Initially, it was interpreted as the double-humped back of the monster and generated enthusiasm. However, in later years, researcher Ronald Binns suggested the shapes might have been the overlapping wakes of 3 closely traveling boats. Other experts also proposed that the photo could be a hoax. They noted that McNab's respected profession as a banker, a socially trusted figure, may have biased perceptions of the photo's authenticity. To this day, the photograph remains one of the ambiguous pieces of evidence in the Loch Ness Monster debate. Tim Dinsdale's film. Aerospace engineer Tim Dinsdale noticed a strange hump moving across the surface of the loch on the final day of his long-running search. He described the creature as reddish-brown in color and said that when he viewed it through binoculars, he saw a lighter patch beside it.
It was down there about 20-30 yards, I would think. Inside the car, I had the camera on a tripod on my left, and I stopped the car, had a fairly quiet look at it through binoculars, and while I was watching it through binoculars, I could see it very clearly. It came to life and it started to move off, and then I turned and started to shoot the film. While I was watching it, started to move. A most electrifying moment. It looked like the back of a huge animal, reddish-brown. It stood 2 or 3 feet out of the water, 4 or 5 feet across, and then it approached the far shore, and then under the surface, throwing up a wave which has since been measured on the film at a height of about 2 feet.
As the creature began to move, Dinsdale filmed about 40 feet, 12 meters, of footage. In the film, a moving object can be seen creating a V-shaped wake across the water. In 1966, the Royal Air Force's Joint Air Reconnaissance Intelligence Center, JARIC, analyzed the footage and concluded that the object was probably a living creature. The film encouraged many Nessie hunters, and Dinsdale dedicated the rest of his life to observing Loch Ness.
Well, I'm going to go on, if necessary, for 20 years, because I think that's a fair research period for anybody, and I shall then be 55.
In 1993, the Discovery Channel aired a documentary where experts digitally enhanced and analyzed the footage. One analyst claimed to spot a shadow beneath the water that appeared to be part of an underwater body, saying, "Before seeing the film, I thought the monster was nonsense, but after enhancing it, I'm not so sure anymore." However, later analyses suggested that what Dinsdale captured was likely a boat, filmed under poor lighting conditions. Although Dinsdale tried to demonstrate the difference by later filming a boat along the same route, the lighting conditions on that morning differed, making comparison difficult. Today, most authorities believe the object in Dinsdale's famous footage was likely a misidentified boat. Still, his film remains one of the most discussed and promising pieces of evidence in the Loch Ness mystery. Loch Ness Muppet photo. Anthony Doc Shields, a self-proclaimed magician and paranormal researcher, claimed to have spiritually summoned the Loch Ness Monster while camping near Urquhart Castle and succeeded in photographing it. His image was touted as the clearest photo of Nessie ever taken. The reptilian-like head and neck of a creature emerging from the water were clearly visible. However, the photo was so still and unusually sharp that it was quickly dubbed the Loch Ness Muppet. There were virtually no ripples or wave marks around the object, suggesting it was stationary. Nevertheless, the consensus was that this was one of the worst Nessie hoaxes in history. Shields was not taken seriously by credible scientific circles. This puppet photo from the 1970s became a striking example of how far the speculation around Loch Ness could go. Gordon Holmes' video. Gordon Holmes, a 55-year-old English lab technician, was walking along the shores of Loch Ness when he spotted a black object moving swiftly through the water. He filmed it with his digital camera. In Holmes's approximately 2-minute video, a 14-meter, 45-foot long black object is seen traveling at about 10 kilometers per hour, 6 miles per hour, across the surface of the loch. "I couldn't believe my eyes," said Holmes. "I saw something jet black moving quickly in the water." The footage was considered one of the best Nessie videos captured in decades. BBC Scotland aired the clip on the evening news on May 29, 2007, and Scotland's STV also interviewed Holmes. Nessie expert Adrian Shine, upon first review, said the object was most likely an otter, seal, or waterfowl. Still, Holmes's video was seen as important digital era evidence that Nessie sightings could still occur, and received wide international media attention. George Edwards' photo. George Edwards, who had been a Loch Ness boat tour guide for 26 years, kept a photo he took in the autumn of 2011 hidden for nearly a year. He released it to the media in 2012 as the best photo of Nessie ever. The image showed a large, dark grey hump emerging from the water. Edwards, claiming he had searched for the monster for years, said he had no doubt this was Nessie. He even speculated that the creature might resemble a manatee and suggested there could be more than one in the loch. However, Loch Ness researchers quickly uncovered inconsistencies in the photo. Steve Feltham pointed out that the object in the image was identical to a fiberglass hump model made for a National Geographic documentary. In October 2013, George Edwards finally admitted the photo was a hoax, confessing that he had staged the scene using a fake hump to entertain tourists. Thus, what was once considered the best Nessie photo of 2012 was officially added to the list of known hoaxes. David Elder's wave video. David Elder, 50, an amateur photographer from East Kilbride, noticed a strange disturbance in the water while filming a swan at the pier in the town of Fort Augustus. Although the water was calm and flat, a dark mass, about 15 meters from the shore, began creating its own wave as it moved. In Elder's 5-minute video, a clearly defined arc-shaped wave is visible on the water's surface, but no solid object can be seen causing it. "I believe what I saw was caused by a solid object," Elder said, convinced the wave couldn't have formed on its own. The footage sparked debate in the media and was described as a wave created by Nessie passing underwater. Experts, however, noted that sudden gusts of wind or underwater currents in Loch Ness can produce similar wave patterns. They suggested Elder may have misinterpreted a natural current as evidence of the monster. While no definitive conclusion was reached, the incident is often cited as an example of how Nessie might be indirectly observed through the traces it leaves behind. Charlotte Robinson's photo. 12-year-old Charlotte Robinson from Leeds, England, claimed to have seen the legendary Loch Ness Monster while on vacation with her family in Invermoriston, near the loch. On the first evening of their holiday, around 7 p.m., she noticed a dark shape resembling a head and neck emerging about 15 meters from the shore. Charlotte quickly grabbed her phone and took several photos. According to her account, the black shape remained above water for about a minute before submerging, only to reappear about 10 meters away for a short time before vanishing again. The head was kind of hook-shaped and had a neck. "I'm not sure how much of it was above water," she described. Though initially skeptical, her family was surprised when they saw the shape in the photo. Nessie researchers declared it one of the best sightings of recent years. Steve Feltham, who has been monitoring the loch for 27 years, even said Charlotte's photo might be an important piece of evidence. Skeptics, of course, suggested it might be a tree trunk, bird, or an optical illusion caused by waves. Still, the image captured by a child unexpectedly reignited excitement among Nessie hunters and received wide media coverage. Chi Kelly's photos. Amateur photographer Chi Kelly may have captured the clearest photos of Nessie ever taken back in 2018. But what about Steve Feltham, the Loch Ness hunter who has lived by the lake for 30 years in hopes of capturing the creature on camera. Did he finally succeed in 2025? To learn more about both of these cases and see the photos in detail, don't forget to check out our previous video. The Loch Ness Monster legend continues to thrive well into the 2020s. In fact, during 2020, a record number of 13 sightings were officially logged, partly due to more people watching Loch Ness through online webcams during the pandemic lockdowns. While many of these reports came from curious viewers noticing anomalies on the live stream, a few were in-person encounters. On November 24, 2020, Karen Scott from Aberdeen and her husband spotted a strange object surfacing near Urquhart Castle. They observed it for 5 minutes as it repeatedly emerged and submerged, eventually disappearing beneath the water with a large splash. They even managed to capture the moment on camera. Earlier that month, on November 15th, local resident Louise Power and her mother saw a mysterious shape slowly gliding through the water near Doris, leaving a trail behind before suddenly diving beneath the surface. In 2021, 2022, and 2023, more Nessie reports continued, via both webcam clips and tourist photographs. In August 2023, the largest volunteer-led Nessie hunt in decades took place. Though no conclusive evidence was found, mysterious underwater sounds recorded during the search dominated headlines for days. From the 1800s to today, the events surrounding Loch Ness reveal how a local tale transformed into a global legend. Since 1933, blurry photographs, bold eyewitness accounts, and even deliberate hoaxes have helped shape the myth. Alongside claims of real sightings, scientific research still hasn't provided a conclusive answer. Yet Nessie continues to live on in headlines, in people's hearts, and in Scottish culture. Curious minds still visit the loch, hoping to witness the unexplained. And as a skeptic, I continue to investigate Nessie with an open mind. Don't forget to watch the previous parts of this series, and get ready, our next episode dives even deeper into the mystery.